Hello to all my GoIndieNow faithful. How are we this fine evening? This is your host, Joe Compton, and I'm doing something a little different this evening. It appears that I've been tagged to do a challenge, a 10 questionnaire challenge that was created by Mr. Peter, the writer, and it's a challenge called A Writer's Life for Me. And I was challenged by the great Christy Stratos, who has an awesome vlog on YouTube. You definitely need to go check out Christy's vlog and check out her responses to these questions that I'm about to answer. Question 1. What kind of writer are you? There's a few choices here. There's fiction, screenplays, nonfiction, poetry. And truth be told, I've probably written in all four. I mean, nonfiction, I haven't written a book or a screenplay per se, or biography per se, but I have written blog posts and done a lot of interviews over the years. So I would pretty much consider that nonfiction, you know. The one I've done the most probably is screenplays. I've written probably almost a dozen screenplays in my life. And the one that I probably say I would lean toward as describing myself as is probably fiction novels. And simply because as a writer, I think there's no better way to immerse yourself in craft than writing a novel. It's a very trying process, but it's also a very engaging and rewarding process at the same token. And it's really something that you do all on your own. I mean, you do get edited and you have people read it and such, but the writing aspect of it is all on your own. Whereas screenplays, sometimes you're beholden to a director or a producer and they have an idea and you have to kind of write out their idea instead of creating your own. You add your little spin to it sometimes, but for the most part, it's usually somebody else's idea. And poetry, that's a nice thing to write, and it's really helpful and emotional, and it does all of those things for you, but it really doesn't fulfill me as much as a novel does. Question 2. When did you start writing? I think probably a better question is, when did I stop? As far as I can remember, I've been writing stories. I know it's cliche to say that I was writing before I could talk, but I really was for the most part. I would write sentences and little bits and pieces of a story here and there. I really loved creative writing at school. And during the summertime, when both my parents decided to go back to work and I was watching my brother, it was just me and my brother at home, I would write screenplays and we would perform them, and so I was always creative. I wrote my own comic books when I was a kid. I dabbled in that. Luckily, I was such a terrible illustrator, I gave that up. But the story aspect of things, I didn't have that. I always was a writer. I've been writing forever. Question 3. What inspires your stories? That's a loaded question if there ever was one. Lots of things inspire my stories. Usually how I start is with a sentence, though. Usually I come up with one really good sentence, and it's usually the beginning of something, and I just build off of that. Sometimes I've come up with endings, too, and endings I'll build backwards from. And sometimes it's just I'm listening to music and I get an idea, or I'm talking to somebody and I get an idea. I always keep an idea book with me, or on my phone I'll now type some notes in there. Modern technology, huh? But I've always been inspired by so many things. But it really starts for me to find the sentence that sings, and then once it sings, it just starts to develop its own tune. Question 4. What themes do you like to explore in your writing? There's only one really for me, and that's mortality. Well, I mean, you could guess. I guess humanity as well. I love to explore the dark, the light. Doesn't matter the setting. It doesn't matter the genre. It really doesn't matter people, places, or things. To be honest, I like to center it around the commonality that we all have, the mortal coil that we all live in, and you know, viewing it from different perspectives and challenging aspects of it as well, and looking into immortality and beyond mortality. So I think that's always going to be a central theme in the way I write and what I write about. Question 5. Are you a pantser or a plotter? Well, judging by those terms of affection, I don't know if I want to be either. But I guess I'm a pantser because I'm not a plotter. I'm a stream of conscious writer. I write off the cuff and in bunches. And I go and go and go. And typically, I don't go until my head is empty. And then I go back and I plot it out. So I guess I'm a little bit of both. But I take it, and the plotting is done through the editing. It's not done through the writing. I don't plot this point to get to this point. I usually let the writing take its own course and let it have its own life and let it breathe. It's the only way I've always known how to write. Question 6. Where are you at in your journey? Well, again, I'm published. I'm published in all aspects. I've actually made films from my screenplays. I've made short films. I've attempted feature films. Haven't been very successful at that. And I've written books that have been published. So that's where I'm at. And I'll continue to elevate and grow and try and get more out there. Question 7. Have you ever entered writing contests, and how did you do? I've entered several. I've actually entered writing contests on spot at conferences and things like that. They have these interesting, fun little writing exercise / contests that I've entered at conventions and such, and done those as well. But I've submitted screenplays for competitions. I haven't submitted any manuscripts though, only screenplays. So I've only done screenplay competitions. And the best I've ever done, I was a quarterfinalist in the Blue Cat screenplay competition, which is a pretty prestigious competition. So I finished top 16 of that, or top 15, I'm not sure. I can't remember if it's 15 or even if it's 10. It might be top 10. It's been a long time since I entered a competition, but that one was the one I got to quarterfinals. I've entered a film in a competition, and I've never gotten past the first round. So I should tell you what kind of filmmaker I am. Question 8. Who are your writing heroes? Now, that's a really tough one. I think what drew me to writing initially, at such a young age, believe it or not, was Edgar Allan Poe. The first time I read Poe, I was blown away by the fact that he could take mundane, everyday events and everyday people and kind of turn them on their head and make them suspenseful and scary and interesting. And I thought that would be always kind of writer I would want to be, and so he's always drawn for me. I'll tell you, in writing my novel Amongst the Killing, Truman Capote became quite an inspiration for me. I don't know if I'd call him a hero per se, but without In Cold Blood, I don't think Amongst the Killing gets made, simply because he taught me a lot about tone and pacing and finding that inner, perspective that you don't usually get with those kind of genre books. And so that book I drew a lot of inspiration from for Amongst the Killing. Question 9. Have I ever attended any writing conferences? Yes, I've attended several. In fact, my first conference I ever attended, which was the Gold Conference in Denver, Colorado, I got my one and only agent, the only time I've ever had an agent in my life. My literary agent, Anne. Well, she was my literary agent. She's now passed away, and I've been on my own for quite a while, actually. But Gold Conference in Colorado is a really good one, a really high mark one that I would definitely put at the top of my list if I was looking to go to a writer's conference and I'd never been to one. I would definitely check that one out. But I've been to so many screenwriting conferences. I've been to the Austin Film Festival. I've been to the Script Screenwriting Conference. I've been to the LA Film Festival Screenwriting Conference. I've done screenwriting labs. So I've been to a lot of those, and they're all great for the reasons that they are great, but they're really great for networking. And certainly it's an awesome, awesome experience. If you've never done it, I definitely recommend doing it. Even if you're a published author or a seasoned author, you may be surprised at how much you get from them. Question 10 and our final question. Give us your top 3 tips for newbie writers. Well, number 1 is never give up. If you have the passion and the drive and you think you have something that is worth seeing, or even that you need to have seen, don't even worry about if it's worth it. Just that you need it to be out there. Get it in somebody's hands. Get it out there. And don't give up until you do. You know, don't worry about the things like money and traditional versus self-publishing or Hollywood system, going the Hollywood system route, or should I sell my screenplay, should I make it? All of those things don't matter when it comes to the initial drive and passion. You need to have all of that. Number 2, I'd have to say, learn social media. Learn it very, very well. Master it. You have to market yourself. You have to be not afraid to market yourself. You have to go out there and do everything for yourself because nobody else is going to do it for you. You may think there's agencies out there and people out there, and there are, and there's some good ones actually, but you still have to do a modicum of it yourself. And I think that if you learn how to master the social media aspects, you can really get far and do what you want to do and reach goals that you can easily obtain and set. The third and final tip I would say is fight every single ounce and urge you have to quit. And don't give in to the no. Don't let that word do anything to you other than move forward. Because you're going to hear a lot of no's. You're going to hear a lot of naysaying. You're going to hear a lot of negativity. Don't let any of that breach your hull. Just keep your shields up and keep focused and go forward. I promise you, if you just sledge through it, you will find that rainbow and that beautiful word that we all love. Yes. 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 It's going to happen because you believe it and you're going to fight for it. And I want you to stay strong and be there. And anytime you feel down, anytime you feel like, I got to quit, fight it. Fight it because you will make it. I promise you. It takes a lot of patience, it takes perseverance, and it takes a lot of guts and gusto and fortitude. All of those things are going to be your friend in the end. And I'm a poet, and I didn't even know it. See, I told you I wrote poetry. This was a lot of fun. I want to thank Christy Stratus for tagging me and Mr. Peter the Writer for creating this game. I'm going to pay it forward and tag Jin Okubo, Angela B. Chrysler, and Timothy Bateson. I can't wait to see you guys answer these questions, and I can't wait to see your videos. If you want to get my book, it's called Amongst the Killing, and it's available on Amazon in all formats, audiobook, paperback, Kindle. You can also get it as a Nook and paperback at barnesandnoble.com. You can get it as an iBook on iTunes. Just search for Amongst the Killing by Joe Compton, and you should find it there. Also, don't forget about GoIndieNow. That is my online platform. It is where I foster, support, and highlight indies of all art forms and disciplines. There's a couple ways we do this. First is our monthly video show that has like 3 or 4 interviews with indies and has a couple segments like new releases and reviews. And you can get involved in our show if you want to be interviewed or you have a new release. Go to our website, GoIndieNow.com, and fill out the appropriate form. Also, once I'm done with the interviews, I take them in their entirety because I chop them up for the video show to fit into a 1-hour format. I take all the interviews that I do for the show in their entirety and post them as audio podcasts at our audio site, which is goindienow.podbean.com. That's PODBEAN.com. goindienow.podbean.com. Also, you can, if you have iTunes on any device that you have, you can subscribe to us that way. And please do subscribe. That really is awesome. You'll get the podcast before anybody else does by doing that. And you can just search for Go Indie Now. That's all one word, Go Indie Now, and you can do that there. Also, then we do a live show once a month. I pick a random Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, and we have a panel discussion on the topics that are important to indies. This month we're doing on June 18th our panel discussions on world building. So you definitely want to check that out. And other than that, I think it's time to go indie now, don't you? Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.